All right, if everyone can find their seats. I'm gonna face this way first.
You must be the timer. I see you've got to, can I see it just? Okay.
We can make it louder.
Well, I just don't want to hear it tonight, that's all, but it probably will happen. It'll probably happen, but
I suggested throwing stuff at you, but Dusty kind of put the kibosh on that. So.
I would like to thank everyone for coming out to Morgan County. Morgan County Republicans are hosting the House District 63 debate between Representative Richard Holtorf and Jesse Vance. Before we begin this debate, I would just like to go over the rules that we'd given to the candidates over 2 weeks ago. No food or drinks can be distributed or brought into the venue per agreement. No signs or posters can be placed inside the building per the venue agreement. If you do place signs outside the building in the grass, we ask you please take them with you at the end. There will not be time before or after the event to have a booth or table, as we've only rented out the venue for the duration of the event, which is 1 hour. Please adhere to the time limits that are set. There will be a cowbell done by Nathan Trout to let you know when your time is up. Please stop whatever you're at when this time cowbell is rung, and he will ring until you are done, until you finish talking. Opening speeches will be 3 minutes, just like the length used in the House committees. Closing speeches will be 1 minute. For general Q&A, where the questions come from pre-created questions, everyone should have seen on the table we had note cards where you could ask questions, hand them to our runners. We have Wes Cable, our Morgan County Secretary, and we have Vivian Lorenzini, our Morgan County Treasurer, who are, just raise your hand, get their attention, and they'll bring the questions up. Candidates will have no more than 3 minutes to address these questions and up to 1 minute for rebuttal remarks if they choose to do a rebuttal. Candidates, if you choose to do a rebuttal, please just let me know. Say, Madam Moderator, I'd like to do a rebuttal. I'll stop saying the next question I was saying. We'll go back to the previous question, allow you each to have a minute, and then move on to the next question. For candidate Q&A, where the questions will come from the candidates to each other, the candidates will have 30 seconds to ask their questions to the other candidate, and then that candidate being asked the question will have 3 minutes to respond. At the end of those 3 minutes, that candidate who just answered the question will have 30 seconds to ask their opponent their question, and they will have 3 minutes to respond. We will do that for at least 2 questions. We might have time for 3. That is up to the moderator and the time that we are at. Please be mindful of your language, as this is an event is public. We do have children watching on the streaming app, and students will also be watching. This will be a live recording on our Morgan County, Colorado Republicans Facebook page if you'd like to go back and stream it, or if you have friends who have not been able to make it here, go to our page, share the link, and they can also stream in and watch. We did have a coin toss before this event. Both candidates agreed to the terms of the coin toss. Representative Holtorf won the coin toss and decided to go second throughout the evening, so Jesse Vance will be going first. We will begin with our opening comments from the candidates. Candidates, you have 3 minutes. Jesse Vance, you are beginning.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Jesse Vance. I'm running to be your next House District Representative for 63. Been born and raised in Yuma County, Eckley, Colorado. I started my political experiences by starting to go down to my local town board meetings, and that was while I was still in high school. From there, I took the next step forward and ran and became one of the youngest elected as city council members at the age of 22. From there, I also went and ran and became one of the youngest mayors at the age of 26. As mayor, I led the town to work together to solve a water issue that we've been fighting for many years before we had been able to accomplish our sewer project even. I also fought against a town board measure that would be for marijuana, and got it killed, so that way it would not be devastating to our town and bring in all the bad that the drugs come with it. I grew up working around agriculture, pushing cattle up the chutes, sitting behind the wheel of a tractor. I currently work in oil and gas. I know what it's like to be out in freezing temperatures, to be able to keep everybody's heat on. I also served on the Water Authority Board in Yuma County. I understand the importance and the precious water that we have and what it means to each and every community within the districts and the entire state. I also serve my community by responding to fire calls and medical calls and serving alongside our Heroes in Blue by being a volunteer firefighter, which I've been a part of since the age of 22. As your next representative, I want to be able to fight for the right of life and to protect the innocent, unborn lives that we see tarnished every day. I also will never waver on the Second Amendment. I'm going to stand up to the wokeness going on in our schools, things like critical race theory, because I care about what your kids are being taught just as well as I do mine. I want to make sure that rural Colorado is here for many generations to come because it's important to each and every one of us. This is home. This is where we belong. This is where we want to stay. And to be able to have that future, we must have somebody that's going to be an effective voice at the state capitol. And I really, really want my kids to have the same sort of things that I was able to have when I was growing up.
State representative serving 9 counties in southeast Colorado in House District 64. I'm also honored to ask for the privilege to serve 7 counties in the new House District 63. I have shown my leadership and I have a lifelong experience in many executive level positions. My wife Mary and I, along with my 5 children, understand the sacrifice it takes to serve in political office, and they fully support my passion for our rural communities and our small towns in the Eastern Plains. Just yesterday, it was an honor for me to be the guest speaker at the Memorial Day celebration at the Heart of the Plains Cemetery in Roggen, Colorado. As a veteran who has served his country for 29 years, taking the oath to defend the United States Constitution as a combat veteran, I stood with reverence and with great feeling of patriotism as we celebrated the freedoms that have been provided to us by those who served, fought, or made the ultimate sacrifice for our country. Now at the Capitol, I have seen firsthand our constitutional rights being eroded. For the last 3 years, I have fought back at every opportunity, speaking more than any other legislator in the world to uphold our conservative principles and maintaining our rural values that make our life so great in eastern Colorado. I will tell you, I've seen the Democrat majority chip away through their progressive liberal agendas and legislation. Colorado has now become a battleground state for the progressive left. We truly are at the tip of the spear, and is evident by House Bill 1279, which provides abortions up to the moment of birth. It is the most radical abortion law in the nation today, and Colorado's governor has signed it into law. There are other radical things that are going on, but the most important issues that northeastern Colorado faces are the future of the availability of agricultural water, the high cost of agricultural inputs, the runaway inflation that every family is facing, and public safety, specifically the protection of our children in our schools. My solution in no way involves the infringement of our Second Amendment rights to this problem, and I would like an audience member to ask me my plan to protect our children in our public, charter, and private schools. I stand before you as a leader who will honorably serve rural Colorado and stand up every day at the state capitol to protect our rural way of life. I'll also protect our water rights, protect rural Colorado against unconstitutional mandates. Thank you.
People in the audience, if you have questions, please write them down and pass them to our runners. The first question that we have here today
and every one of them on throughout whatever we're talking about, whether it be ag, energy, water, business. That's usually their big deals. They're doing on their businesses and the housing crises that go on up there. They're happening just out here as well. The prices, as you haven't seen, have risen up here. So we also have to show them that we can work together and be able to become Colorado again instead of splitting each other and making it worse by making it into a rural versus urban Civil War type style.
Thank you. I will repeat the question again to you, Mr. Holdsworth. How do you plan to address the growing rural-urban divide here in Colorado, or we will be leaving houses to love? You have 5 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, the rural-urban divide is real. It's not new to Colorado, and it is a pervasive problem. Over the last 3 years, I have been addressing the rural-urban divide at the state capitol by constantly talking to my colleagues from the urban corridor, and also talking to my colleagues that are from rural areas. And not all rural legislators understand rural Colorado. Now, I will tell you that I stand up strong for agriculture, and I talk pervasively about the rural-urban divide in the House chamber weekly. My rural legislators know my passion. The urban legislators know how to spell rural Colorado, and I constantly talk to them about how they need to help close the rural-urban divide and have as much effort as we are to reach out to them. They need to reach back to us. Now, I will tell you something I'm doing just this month to close the rural-urban divide, or the urban-rural divide, as our urban cousins like to call it. We can't even agree on the name. I am hosting a legislative day for all of the legislators on June 17th. The announcement has gone out, and my aide is working on that. And we are going to bring Democrat urban legislators and Republicans, if they'd like to come, out to Buffalo Springs Ranch. We're going to visit and talk about cow-calf operations. We're also going to go to Global Harvest, which processes bird feed. And most people from Washington County, I don't know how many people are here, you can raise your hands if you're from Washington County, you know how much pro-sow millet we raise. And it is a very important crop. And it gets processed and shipped all over the United States. I will also tell you that I've been working with Commissioner Don Brown in Yuma, Colorado. I'm very close to him. He is a mentor of mine and has been for a long time. And he is going to have his son available to also talk about irrigated farming. So legislators understand how important water is to rural Colorado and how important our ag production is, because it is truly the foundation for our rural economies. It builds everything that our rural communities in our small towns and cities support. If we don't have agriculture, and I'd like to talk about the Republican River issue also, but I'll have to do that at a later time because I see I have 2 minutes and 50 seconds left on the time. But it's very important that we have the water and we have our city cousins understanding what we do in agriculture. Thank you.
Next question. It appears from the outside our government today has no working relationship amongst the parties, and that the overall picture is about the government, not the people. When elected, what will you do to change that narrative? Representative Holdsworth, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Dusty, for that question. And that's a very important question. You see, a lot of times government, and specifically state government, becomes what I call a self-licking ice cream cone. They want to serve themselves. And we see it in the State House chamber when legislators are working on legislation to try to increase the amount of revenue they can take from the tax base to fund more programs, and to fund more grants, and to fund more programs and provide more benefits to perhaps certain communities, and they call it carve-outs. Now, I will tell you that I always ask these legislators, aren't we supposed to represent the people? Aren't we supposed to represent the people of Colorado and try to help keep more money in their pockets? I will tell you that there are many legislators and Democrats in the chamber that I've talked to specifically, and I'm not going to mention any names, that wouldn't be polite, that are more interested in getting more revenue for their interests and their programs and the government programs that they want to promote than saving taxpayers' money. And that is a problem. So how do we address that? Well, I will tell you that many people in the Republican caucus and my colleagues fight back and try to vote against this type of legislation and these programs. But I will tell you that we do not have the votes to stop what is happening at the state capitol. And I'll give you a classic example. How is it that the state budget has gone to $36 billion in the last 3 or 4 years? A $14 billion increase. Is it because we're trying to take care of we the people? Or are we trying to extort more money out of we the people so we can have more government? Larger government, more programs, more givebacks, more grant programs. I have a real issue with that. And those are the things that I stand up for in the state capitol. I will not relent in this effort because the people need to keep their money. When you keep more of your money, ladies and gentlemen, you will invest more of your money in your communities instead of sending that money to the state capitol. And that's truly how I believe, and I will stand up as the state representative for House District 63 and soon hopefully be in a leadership position within the House caucus, because I've already mentioned that we have a significant turnover coming up, over 40% this next session, to try to promote what I speak of, which is retaining money and helping to close the issues that we have to work for the people and not for the government. Thank you.
So, thank you. So going through and going out and talking to people, there's been a lot of people that are going, especially with roads. Roads are always getting fixed up on the front range. They're never being fixed out here. We have to be able to go through and allow that to be shown that we're helping the entire state and not just helping a certain area of the state. And that goes through for everybody. It goes from crime when it comes to passing legislation that's going to make drugs legal. That affects everybody in the state. And that's more of your government type funding of a program and not helping the people, because more people want to be out working. More people want to have those freedoms. We have to get rid of those regulations to make sure that they're going back to work and not sitting around and getting these handouts. We have to be able to make sure that our spending is on point on things that we actually need, and it's throughout the entire state. And going around and talking to these people, they're saying the exact same things about everything. It comes down to water. I mean, you have plenty of water in certain places, but then there's other places in the state that have really been hurt by the water situation, especially out here in northeast Colorado. We've had a water problem going on, and it just keeps getting worse, and we don't have the legislators up there that are willing to put up a fight. Unlike ones that have done it in the Senate, they were able to push through great water bills, but then they die in the House. We have to have strong leadership that can make sure that those types of things get pushed through and get passed to benefit everybody of Colorado and not just have it sit in one certain area.
Mr. Vance, what is your stance on school priorities? You have 3 minutes.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, sorry. What is your stance on school priorities? I think they mean what are your priorities when it comes to schools?
So schools, we need to keep that, keep up the funding for the schools. That's going to be our future. We have to make sure that they have the education that they need and not be pushed into an indoctrination as far as critical race theory or sex and gender transfusions. I mean, we have to focus on the things that really matter. And at the same time, we can't be getting caught up in things such as school mascots. As a Yuma Indian, myself, I went through and never had any disrespect towards anything when it came to the Indians. That was always something to be very proud of. And you can ask each and every person that was a part of that school or any other schools, such as Rickery. We were always proud to be the Indians. We need to make sure that we get legislation passed so that funding that was needed to remove those mascots from the state gets put back into those schools, so that way we can further our future and our education of our children.
Representative Holtor, what is your stance on school priorities, or as I reworded it, what are your priorities when it comes to schools? You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Dusty. And this is a very important issue right now, here today, in the United States of America. I will tell you, based on recent events, and you heard me mention it in my opening comments, based on recent events, I think school safety is one of my top priorities. Now, I want to speak to that a little bit, and I want to talk about a little bit about how I would help as a legislator solve this problem. Because school safety is first and foremost in our minds now. I will tell you that it is important that we build programs that protect our schools, and we have always funded our schools and fully funded the school curriculums and the school budget. That's something we always do. It's the priority that's an issue. And we also gave grants for school protection. School protection. One thing we need to do, and as a previous force protection officers, we need to control entry into the schools. It needs to be where you have to have positive control and access entry only. There's not free and open entry into schools anymore. And that has to be funded. And schools, many schools have done this, but all schools need to do this, and it needs to be a priority for the state. Additionally, we need to encourage school protection officer funding. So we have more school protection officers who are actually out there. In many cases, are retired law enforcement officers that can protect students if there is a hostile event or a crisis. Now, here's what I want to promote as part of a very important issue with respect to school safety, and I can talk about this in 3 minutes. I'm going to get to some other things here. But in Fleming, Colorado, if you talk to them, they already have a very unique program that they've adapted where they have faculty members that conceal carry and have special training. The first thing that I would do is have a special warning system, just like they do in hospitals and clinics, that if you push a panic button, law enforcement will immediately be notified that there is a crisis at that school. But more importantly, if you don't have school protection officers, you will have a special training program that will allow for administrators, faculty, staff, coaches, and teachers on a volunteer basis who will conceal carry in school. And they will have special training to augment the school protection officers and the law enforcement officers. We know what happened in Texas. 77 minutes before law enforcement, a federal law enforcement officer entered. And I also want to talk about social engineering in schools because I have 20 seconds. Social engineering is not okay. We need to get back to reading, writing, and arithmetic. Focus on technology, STEM, science, and get our kids so they can succeed in life. I'm out of time. Thank you.
How do you view and treat relationships with your constituents, lobbyists, media, and other legislators should you be elected? You have 3 minutes.
Can you go over the list of the different categories, please?
Yeah, I can say, so should you be elected, how do you view and treat the relationships with your constituents, lobbyists, media, and other legislators? You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Dusty. First of all, I've been in the state capitol for 3 years. And if you talk to people in House District 64, I am always open to every constituent in my district. I answer the phone 24/7. I answer emails as soon as possible, and I check every email, and we get hundreds a day. And constituent affairs is my #1 priority because you serve your district. You work for the people. You are the people of House District 63 in Northeast Colorado. You are my employer. You come first. Now I'm going to jump around a bit. I'm going to talk about lobbyists last. The media. If you go to Colorado Politics, there was an article written about me by Marianne Goodland, the senior staff writer for Colorado Politics. You might want to go look at it. Oh, by the way, it's on my website, holtorf4colorado.com. I had my webmaster post it today. You will learn about who Richard Holtorf is as a state legislator. Additionally, you're not going to get a fair shake as a Republican, and my opponent needs to know this, from the liberal media. It isn't coming. If you think you're going to get it, you're a darn fool. Now, I've met with media. I've been interviewed by media. Fox 31. I've talked to media. I've had media chase me around the Capitol when I said I wouldn't talk to them. I will tell you, sometimes you need to talk to them. I've even talked to the media in Spanish. How many of you know that? Because I'm fluent in Spanish. Telemundo, si quieres saber. So I'm very familiar with how to use the media and how to talk to the media. I will also tell you, with respect to legislators, I work with legislators at the state capitol. But I will tell you, some of the Democrat legislators, if you think they're your friends, if you think you can get along with them, if you think you can walk hand in hand with them for mutual benefit, you will find you are sadly mistaken. Progressive, liberal ideologues who are card-carrying socialist-minded and Marxist-minded individuals will not help you any. Now, yes, we have to compromise. Yes, we have to figure out how to legislate and work together. But you need to know who you're working with. In the military, we had a saying that you can't negotiate with a terrorist. Now, I know that's extreme, but I just use this to make a point. Some of these people, if you get in bed with them, figuratively speaking, you are going to be in trouble because they're going to take you down a road that's going to take you down a rabbit hole, and when you get to the end of that trail, you're going to be sadly mistaken by where you end up. It's not going to end well for any of us. I've seen it at the state capitol. I want to talk a little about, not much time, I want to talk about the Lobby Corps. It's important to work with the Lobby Corps, their institutional knowledge at the Capitol. But I will